The beginning of the end came in 2007.
We shall not be moved.
All across America, borrowers like Paula Taylor couldn't keep up with their payments. They defaulted.
Shame! Shame!
Protesters came out to support her, but authorities evicted her anyway.
I'm still to this day embarrassed about what happened to me.
As the bad loans surfaced, it set off a kind of nuclear chain reaction. Remember, many of those bad mortgages were bundled up by Wall Street and sold to investors. So when the loans went bad, so did those bundles, and the investments built from them. In fact, we traced Paula Taylor's mortgage. It was sold by Countrywide as part of a bundle of loans that was administered by the Bank of New York. That bundle was divided up and resold, with portions ending up in at least 2 securities, combined originally worth billions, both now virtually worthless. Just a small fraction of the losses that across the board amounted to trillions.
Dire straits. Bear Stearns, one of the nation's biggest banks, suddenly on life support.
Wall Street giants like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers collapsed. The mortgage business dried up. The economy driven to the brink. So who's to blame, and who should be held accountable? Borrowers like Dolores Parker Jackson, who got $1.3 million even though she was basically broke?
There are going to be some people who see this and say, Dolores, you're an example of someone who took advantage of loose lending standards, borrowed too much money, and got in over your head. What do you say to them?
I don't think so. I don't think I got in over my head.
And yet it looks like she's going to lose her condos.
Do you take any responsibility for that mess, Dolores?
For the mess that I'm in right now?
The mess that you're in right now?
No, I don't take no responsibility.
So you're the victim here?
I'm a victim.
When you signed that mortgage, did you go through the documents in detail?
No.
How come you didn't?
Busy person, trusting person, American person. Before this all happened to me, I could not even envision Americans doing what's been done to me to other Americans. And that sounds really naive. But you can tell by my hair, I'm old school.
How much do you blame Countrywide and how much do you blame yourself?
I blame myself just a little bit. The bank had the upper hand in this. They were the one who came and said, you can afford this.
What about the people who sold the loans, like Karash Parto of Countrywide?
And if you ask a loan officer, he's going to probably say, I blame myself a little bit because the underwriter was supposed to catch any mistake in the file. And all the way down to Wall Street and so on. Everybody blames themselves a little bit. Meanwhile, we have a major problem in this country.
So much blame to go around, and yet so few willing to acknowledge it. Like Richard Gugliotta, the former ratings agency exec, who says this about his industry.
I don't believe you can assign blame or fault.
Well, somebody's to blame.
Not one single piece of research I have seen predicted the magnitude or course that the housing bubble would take when it burst.
But some say they should have seen it coming.
I'm sorry. The only people who can say we never knew are people who didn't want to know.
Is Treasury imposing reforms on financial institutions?
Harvard professor Elizabeth Warren is now chairing a congressional panel overseeing the massive federal bailout. She points the finger at the guys at the top of the chain.
These guys are smart guys, though. How could so many of them get it wrong?
Hey, they didn't get it wrong from their point of view. They made big money. Go back and look at the compensation.
What's the toughest question you would pose to these people?
So what do you plan to do now? Here we are. You're rich. But what are the rest of us going to do?
So many of the people we interviewed for this story have suffered, losing homes, losing jobs, all uncertain about their future. But what about those guys at the top? Like James Kane, the former head of Bear Stearns, paid $155 million in his last 5 years on the job. And Lehman Brothers chief Richard Fuld, who with $354 million in pay, collected lavish homes all over the country. Most of the big fish have avoided the cameras.
It seems that the system worked for you, but it didn't seem to work for the rest of the country.
Though Fuld was called in by Congress.
Given the opportunity to look back, I would have done things differently.
But for many, the biggest fish of all was Angelo Mozillo, the charismatic founder of Countrywide, who pocketed nearly $400 million in recent years. 2 years ago, the very public Mozillo told CNBC this.
I don't think I've ever made a loan, a country has ever made a loan, where we believed that the borrower was going to default.
But that was before he resigned, and Countrywide was taken over by Bank of America. So what does he have to say today? We tried repeatedly to reach out to him for an interview, but after his lawyer didn't return our calls, we decided to pay a visit to Mozillo himself. Easier said than done. Once known for his public appearances, Mozillo is now a recluse, apparently holed up down this winding country road outside Los Angeles behind a guarded gate. Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC. I wanted to try to talk to Angelo Mozillo.
Okay. Has he invited you to come in?
He's not. I wanted to try to chat with him.
Unfortunately, I can't let you in.